I think that means people expecting like literally spontaneous miracles to happen more frequently than they even did in the Bible. Right?
Like, but I need another healing.
Like
another one. How do you pull that greatness out of them? Do you have a go-to kind of flow chart plan?
I have. Well, I think it's two main things. It's kind of clarity around what it actually looks like from beginning to end. Because a lot of people that come with
taking your notes. This is good.
Yeah, go ahead, man. I'll just Venmo me for it after. We'll take it. Welcome to the All Blends Perfectly podcast. Keith, Ryan, Harrison, Coalition Properties, and friends talking about the intersection between lifestyle, real estate, culture, art, and everything in between because it all blends perfectly. Good day, good people. Welcome to another episode of the All Blends Perfectly podcast.
Come on.
Today, we got a special delivery from Cleveland, Ohio.
Come on.
Via Tallahassee, Florida. Not Tallahassee, Tampa. It's different. It's different.
It is different.
It's different. Not many people know that. But no, man, I'm extremely excited for just outstanding human and person, and it's meant a lot to me in my life. We've grown up together and done some really fun things over the years.
Some amazingly fun things.
But we're going to have a very cool conversation because both Ryan and Keith left me hanging today. Like, we're trying to bring y'all some great content, but Keith got to go to Africa and save children and expose them to new opportunities, and Ryan got to go sell some houses to pay the bills. So I'm here doing the podcast today for y'all. So
I appreciate you not paying the bills to be with me. Thank you. I'm looking to detract from what you guys are doing so well.
But this gentleman, his name is Kyle Williams. I call him DJ Willie K. Can you please tell the people who you are and a little bit about you?
I'm no longer a DJ. That was probably the best decision I ever made to stop that career. And at the same time, the best decision I ever made to start that career. So, which is just a shout out to what we're going to talk about, I know later on, just with prosperity, leadership, and life, that, taking opportunities as are handed to you. So, met my man Harrison back in the day. Class of 08, class of 09, Georgetown. Mm-hmm. Kyle, pastor, I was about to go down a whole train. I'm going to say this.
Coach.
No. Okay, let me say this. So I met Harrison back in the day, amazing leader, and I was on Georgetown's campus. I've told you this story a couple times. And I was there, and everybody's like, oh, man, you got to meet this dude. Harrison, got to meet this dude. Harrison. And I was like, you know what? One day, I want them to talk about me like that. Like, it was a very Sandlot experience for me.
They did?
Yeah, they did. For a little bit, but they still talk about you. I'm still trying to get there. Anyways, my name is Kyle, pastor in Cleveland, Ohio. Right now, I'm a pastor. I'm also an amazing husband. At least I think so. My wife hopefully thinks so. But I'm married. My wife's a doctor, and have two sons. Two sons now. That's crazy. You got baby number 2 on the way.
Baby number 2.
God bless you.
Believe we got whole lives that we help create and are responsible for right now?
I don't know how people allow that. I don't know. I'm still trying to work on me. It was the most selfish moment when my son came out, and I was like, I think he's going to be better than me. Like, my whole life, I've wanted to be the GOAT, right? Kobe mentality. And I was like, actually, it's the first time in my life I want somebody to be better than me. It was a crazy moment as a dad. But anyway, and now I got a second one, so I guess he's got to be better
exponential, multiplication, not
anyways,
addition,
man.
multiplication.
Thank you so much for having. Let me say this too. I know I'm talking too much, but man, I am such a fan of what you guys are doing, man. I'm a fan of this content.
Thank you for the feedback. I get the most direct, unsolicited, but helpful, detailed feedback. No, for real.
I didn't ask you, but thank you. But thank you. Nah, it's amazing, man. I love the content. I loved you guys. I mean, the last episode talking about DC real estate and what you guys are doing and working with the mayor. I know you guys are doing. I mean, you guys are not just phenomenal in your lane, but also advocates for people who may feel like they're not able to afford their home, not afford this neighborhood. So anyways, I love what y'all doing, man. And you shout me out, my realtor, Rebecca Donatelli. Thank you. I appreciate that plug. So anyways, we love y'all, man. But yeah, how can I be helpful? Hopefully I can be helpful today.
Well, today, I guess before I dive more into the conversation, we'll give some more context on why he's here. In addition to being a friend, I can always say I knew you were going to be a pastor.
Oh, man.
Like that, I saw that. I'm like, no, he gonna do some other stuff first. He gonna be a pastor, right? Like that's cool. Why. And because I think of the personality that it takes to be good at it.
Yeah.
You were an outstanding coach as well.
Yeah.
I don't think you have time to coach now. Are you still coaching or no?
Man,
okay.
Nah, I told when my kids get 5. It's not forever.
When you get to coach them.
But no for right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they get to be old enough, they can be at the gym and I ain't got to worry about changing the diaper in the middle of,
That's different.
End of a game. It's like that. Then we could talk about it again.
So outstanding coach was always someone that gave, teacher, you've always done things to help people.
Thank you, man.
I feel like
Thank
there was
you.
an undercurrent of faith as inspired by your family, by your upbringing, just where your brain has always been.
That's
that
real.
I always kind of knew would draw you back to it.
I appreciate that, man.
And it's cool to see you doing that now.
I
and have
appreciate
done
that,
it
man.
a couple different spaces. So
Thanks.
for this convo, we're gonna take a bit, I guess, because we've hinted at how faith has influenced us and been a part of kind of who we are and what's helped us make the decisions we make, how we think about getting together, good times, music. Faith is an undercurrent that's significant in our lives.
No,
and I wanted to talk with the man second closest to Jesus after Father Kemp. I think he just got some years on you.
He's there. He might be it.
Right,
Shout out to Randy.
he knows
Kemp.
him. He can text him.
Just
right?
putting out bad Instagram photos. Just a picture of his shoulder with like a very famous person. I'm like, I'm still not you though. Yeah,
Father Raymond Kemp, one of the most, again, closest to Jesus we know.
Go.
Touched everybody in the city and mostly in the world. He's amazing. But you number 2 behind him, close to God.
For sure.
I think there's an intersectionality in this theme of things blending perfectly between how people think about their faith journey, the church that they're a part of, and the other decisions they make in life. One of them, which we talk about here a lot, is real estate, is businesses, is what I should do with my money. I should believe I'm going to find some prosperity at some
manifest.
Later.
So my uncle just figured out who Bad Bunny is. And it's just it's like, I know. I see this is me and you.
Okay, all right, bring it back. We're going to take some tangents, but we will land the plane.
We just found out who Bad Bunny is, and that's important because there's a large Puerto Rican community. Shout out to my dog, Tony. There's a large Puerto Rican community actually in Cleveland, Ohio. A lot of those guys migrated there in the late 70s, 80s for jobs, right? Because they have a big industrial plant and all that. So anyways, they came there for jobs. And Bad Bunny is cited as this idea of manifest, right? Like I can decide what I'm going to be. I can decide what I'm going to become. I can also decide what my impacts will be, right? It's essentially every 90s rapper, right? But the
scale that he's been able to do it on
and that's the thing.
Being true to himself with how he's doing it.
And that's the idea with the fashion, with his own voice, not have to be manipulated or at least from the outside feel like he isn't being manipulated. I own my own rights. It's the new Taylor Swift Red album thing, right?
Or actually, Soulja Boy started owning it first.
Okay, well, let's. And this is where the pastor is necessary. We're gonna pray for Harrison right now. We're not waiting.
Hey, don't hit this Soulja Boy. Tell him we talked about him a lot on this episode. Ownership matters.
Look, just
and you need to stop hating on that.
Let him tell it well. He's done great. But nah, I think that when you see anybody have an idea of what faith means and what I can get to. I mean, we could even go so deep as a Black liberation theology and what so many people the reason that so many people would say they were able to get out of slavery, get out literally of bondage, out of chains, is because of an inward faith. So I think in the same way, people would say, okay, well, if that could get me out of chains, if that could get me out of this place, then maybe it could get me out of poverty. Yeah. Maybe it could get me out of, and then you have people that unfortunately could come and manipulate that and say, oh, let me show you how. And then they start piecemealing the Bible the same way it was piecemealed to get us in slavery in the first place, right? Yeah. They start piecemealing the Bible and say, oh, well, God said, be fruitful and multiply.
Convenient interpretation of what
God said, prosper. And I deal with that a lot where people feel like they've given through a church, but really they're just given to a church. Yeah. And it's a big difference, right? Even here, I see the checks that you guys are writing and giving out to local organizations that are celebrating and supporting people of my same faith and different, of my same belief and different, saying, hey, I love that you're giving to Coalition, but you're also giving through it. And I think that to and through is really, that's the icky part, man. Yeah. That's the icky part. You want people to grow. You want people to prosper. But at the same time, you don't want them to go so far that we're giving with credit cards.
Yeah. It's like beyond the means you even got.
You're putting yourself further. I mean, I remember being in an amazing church. Love all churches, love my church, obviously, but I remember being an amazing church, and they literally have it where you could fill out your credit card information on the back. And I think the idea was like you could do debit or credit, but then I don't know. It gets very difficult, and I think the message of prosperity that I like to preach is not one of God prospering you in your finances, because as we know, it's a lot of people with a lot of money that are broken in a lot of other ways. That's I don't know. That's a diving board.
No. Look, so I got two things. I got two important things about that. How important is that line between believing and having something to believe and target on. Like, I think of Black liberation theology as the most extreme, like in like literally death is at my doorstep and around me, and just for being alive, I could die and I'm less than, so I got to have something to believe in. And shout out to Henry Louis Gates, Dr. Henry Louis Gates, the Black Church, PBS shows.
My gosh.
I've mentioned it a couple
Great
times on the show.
documentary.
Outstanding, just gives perspective into Black culture. But how important is the faith piece of it? And when is too much faith bad, or is too much faith bad, or like, help me, because I think sometimes and maybe it's just what people believe in, what they give to, or where it can be bad, because on the business side I think it can be bad sometimes when people refuse to be honest or open or understanding of like market realities, their situation, the activities they need to take, and they'll say, well, I'm gonna just let the good Lord handle it, and if it's meant to be, and it's gonna be, and I never look at somebody in the eyes and be like, no, because I know faith is important. I need them to believe, to take action, but I also need them to take action. So when is it too much? Is it too much?
Man,
how would you, if someone's got that question, how would
when
you think
is
about
faith too much? Nah, I mean, that's interesting, man. I appreciate. No, for real, it's interesting. I'm glad you're bringing it up. These are real questions that sometimes as pastors we don't like to address, and I think also sometimes aren't brought because people just assume they're supposed to have mustard seed faith, right? We talk about that a lot. If you have faith as large as a mustard seed, it says in the Bible, you could tell this mountain to move. Mustard seeds are incredibly small, right? So the idea is if I have something really, really small, I can get something really, really big. I think for me, the way that specific verse is meant is talking about, yes, an external exchange, but it'll happen because of an internal growth inside of you, right? Mustard trees can be some of the largest organisms with a small seed. So I think we focus so much on the mountain being moved and less on like the power of the mustard seed inside of us, right? Maybe God is actually in that moment is trying to say more about what I can grow out of you if you give me your little bit, and not, oh man, you're going to manifest your destiny. You're going to have $1 million house. You're going to have a $600,000 house. Hey, you're not going to have to rent anymore. God's going to heal your mom from cancer. He's going to, break this generational chain in your family. All those external things are amazing. But if we could tap into the mustard seed inside of each of us, and now sounds like something deep on ketchup and mustard. No. But if we could all tap into, I think, the thing that God has placed on the inside of you, the connection between you and I isn't because there's mics around a table. It's because I love you and our kids should hang out together, right? And that, in so many ways, is so much more unlocking. You even know the relationships you have unlock so much more than even the finances that you have in your pocket. Because, again, there's a lot of people with a lot of finance in their pocket, and I talk to a lot of them, and actually, after acquiring all of that, there's an emptiness. So I think, so to answer your question, I don't think that there can be, in my opinion, too much faith, but I think there can be too much faith in external outcomes. And I think and often,
what you mean by that, is it faith in just believing that the thing will happen? Because I think the second part of this question was like faith without works, right? Like, because I think there's a line, right? Like, I got to believe in it. I got to want it. I got to be all in. And it happens.
I got to grind, got to hustle.
Because it happens both on the sales and client side, but on the realtor side, bro, I want to talk about a community of people that just be out here believing. And the worst part is they believe with their recurring credit card checks for money that they don't have on a thing that they don't work on or use. So I guess the connection there is like, when you say external, I think that means people expecting like literally spontaneous miracles to happen more frequently than they even did in the Bible. Right? Like,
but I need another healing.
Like
another one.
Nah,
right? I feel you.
So I don't know, that's a question or a statement, but that's the low.
Yeah, right. I think it was a statement. But to all the realtors that you just cut, I just want to let you know, feel free to sell me a house for free in Cleveland. But no, so can there be again, I don't think there can be too much faith. I do think you just have to change. A lot of times you have to change your target, right? Even me, right? So thank you so much for your help. I shout out, but Rebecca, our realtor, was really helpful. But at some point we look at the market and say, hey, Kyle, here's what you can afford. Now, it's actually even a difference between here's what you can afford and here's what you can get, because you might qualify for $1 million. But now, can you afford everything that comes with that. Can you afford the fact that you got this great house and a neighborhood, but now you got to figure out how to send your kids to private school. Now you got to figure out like what car you actually going to drive. Like, are you going to be?
Yeah.
So I think to your point, maybe the mentality you think about. I think affordability and then availability of assets is two very different things. And again, I don't think you can have too much faith, but I think it's your job, right? And it's my, I don't want to say job, but my opportunity, my role, the thing I love doing is to have people think more about, again, how do we think about where you actually want to go? Because I don't even think it's the big house. It's what the big house is making you feel. It's making you feel a sense of comfort, a sense of pride. So let's talk about the comfort. Why are you uncomfortable?
The vision for like what I'm going to do.
Bump that. Not even the vision. Not down the road. Right here. Why are you uncomfortable? Right. Why?
That's external versus internal.
Yes. Yeah. Where's the insecurity coming from? And you're gonna go to your realtor and have this whole conversation, or go to your financial planner, go to your kids' school. But let's talk about the internal thing first. Like, where is that coming from? So that's kind of where I get a chance to head it off. Man, I really hope that my mom gets healed from this. Man, absolutely. I'm praying for your mom. I believe God can do it in a moment. If somebody's listening, I believe God could do it in a moment. He could do it right now. I'm excited for the opportunity to celebrate with you. But if he doesn't, can we talk about that? My favorite verse in the Bible, now I'll let you jump in. Daniel 3:18 actually is a great picture of what you're talking about. But Daniel 3:18 is Shadrach, Meshach, and I'm fitting to go. I'm just joking.
And a Billy goat?
Shadrach, Meshach, and I'm fitting to go. But at a Billy goat. Stop. See, they gonna let me pass her.
Oh, man, that's perfectly, man. See, look, there's all these things. The threads.
Three Jewish boys who actually had their names changed. They had different names at the beginning. But either way, three young Jewish boys, and they're standing outside of a fire. And I'll give you 3:18. It's my favorite part. I want to preach and write a book and do 1,000 other things on it. But they're standing outside the fire. Nebuchadnezzar, this king, because he doesn't like something that they did before, they didn't bow down and worship him the way that he wanted. He actually says, hey, I'm going to throw you on the fire. And in fact, I'm going to make the fire 7 times hotter, so much so that the actual people that are supposed to throw you in the fire are going to get hurt, which is a whole nother message in and of itself. That sometimes you worry too much about people that God's got them already locked up anyways. But he turns up 7 times hotter, and the boys are outside the furnace, and they're saying, hey, I believe our God is able. I believe that he's willing to save us from this fire, Nebuchadnezzar. But even if he doesn't, we're still not bowing. And I think for me, I get stuck in the but even if he doesn't place. And I think what people get hurt by is the but even if he doesn't catches them off guard. And they're like, oh, shoot, I didn't get the house. What does that mean? Oh, shoot, I lost the baby.
Because that's the internal versus external. It's like, regardless of the outcome here, I'm coming to this with a faith and a belief and an understanding that, hey, I've done all that I can do. He got me. The outcome is going to be what they are.
But at the same time, and this is the bigger point, right, that you still got to work hard. You still got to go to work. Right, you still have to show up,
or at least understand. Right, like
I mean, one of the most beautiful things ever. I love my man Ryan, and I was hoping to have a conversation and have him here. You know, God rest his soul. But at the same time, but he had a listen to go to at 1. He's like, yo, I love Kyle, and we'll sit and chop it up and laugh and talk about how we did, programming. But he's like, I have to do something for my family and for this company that I know is bigger than myself. So as much as I love this moment, I got to make sure that I'm doing whatever it takes to get back to another moment like this. So now I hear you. Hopefully I answered something or gave somebody something to think about.
And I mean, that's the cool part about conversations like this and podcasts is it's a flow, man.
Yeah.
Like we're putting ideas out and giving a little context.
Yeah, for sure.
Next thing I wanted to kind of throw out as a conversation line is motivation. I think faith, motivation have some interesting overlaps. So,
I went T.I. and then Kelly Rowland in my head.
Please,
Either one was appropriate. So it's
then when we're done, what? Like,
all right, let's just keep moving. Just go.
Oh my goodness!
Somebody pray for me.
What about you didn't go Jeezy though? Thug motivation. We talk about Jeezy a lot. Thug motivations, and that's a powerful tool.
I don't listen to much Jeezy, even though I'm from Tampa.
Old school Jeezy.
I probably should listen to more Jeezy. Now I think we jumped off the boat. Like Soul Survivor, and then I jumped off the boat.
But he's like a whole dad with the woman from the morning show. Yeah, like he's like
okay.
Jeezy,
learn something every time.
He's a different chapter of life
for the culture. I appreciate this. I'm in the world, but not of the world. If you had. I'm sorry. What were you?
No, you both.
Motivation.
Yeah, for real though. You both. Look. Shout out. Like
I appreciate you.
So here's the connection that I need to say out loud. Okay. What makes you, I think, a dope pastor, and what makes you a person that I would trust and want to both be at your church and talk to about hard subjects and all this is that you are more than just this squeaky clean, perfect image, or like this, like, nicely packaged. Because I feel like generationally, that was expected of a lot of pastors, but then they were human, and then it didn't show up. People were like, "Oh my, I can't believe that Pastor Bex." And
he's a human. Oh my god!
I physically remember in both my dad's church and my mom's church, and you know this because your parents moved churches. Eliza gives things like, "Oh, the pastor did this or said this." I'm like, "Yeah, because he's a dude. He's a man. He's a guy. he's a father. He's a this."
Nah,
so I think that's what I've loved about you. Will continue to make you a good pastor is your ability to comfortably exist and be alive and be human, but also be that in that space.
I appreciate
and
that.
for my partner Keith, who's not here.
Yeah.
That's what actually makes him, I think, extremely special with the referral business and the people that trust and like and that he can motivate is that they find a point of connection and trust in, like, either we got similar backgrounds from HBCU, we can talk and chop it up. Like he can comfortably exist in a lot of different spaces like you can. And that's something that I think Georgetown prepared us well for.
Yeah.
And that you and I had in common and have in common is the ability to comfortably be in different spaces and be okay and not because some people can I'm just a fly on the wall and this really sucks. This isn't what I normally know, or these aren't people who I normally talk to and I don't want to be here. But I think both you and I early on had that ability to we're going to figure it out and have a good time. And not just be there, but honestly lead and do well and help other folks have a good time and be comfortable in the space too. So that's the energy you put out in the universe.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I think, so there's a couple different things. And actually I want to speak on something with Keith, man, because I've seen some of the amazing work that he does. And he shouted me out. I can't believe it. Anyways, that's my guy. Even though he doesn't know he's my guy. But I think a couple of things. First, thank you for that compliment. It says in the Bible that Jesus actually was a friend of sinners. He was a friend of sinners. And I think sometimes we get frustrated with pastors nowadays that look like they're too close to people that don't agree. And now it's don't agree socially, politically, all these other things that have gotten roped into being what a good pastor looks like. And I just think it's so important that in the book, that's never what Jesus portrayed or did. His role does, the people he was closest with were like tax collectors, which ain't just like the IRS and like the office down the street now, here in DC where we're shooting from. It actually was the worst people. They were actually extorting people for money, and he kicked it with them and made them the closest, and like there's books in the Bible named after them. And I think if he can turn those people around, but he did it by being a friend, he did it by hanging out with him, he did it by turning water into wine, he did it by being in that space. I think it's important for me to not be of it, right? So far that like you see me at the same place taking shots next to somebody else. But at the same time,
that's a line just in life. You're in different phases.
But if I'm not having a conversation with a real person, then what are we talking about? This is a waste of my time. And I think that's what Jesus would say. And I think I'd love to talk about the opposite. And maybe if Keith was here, he the opposite of your question earlier, because there are people, and we can't forget that there are people that have been beaten up so bad by life. I do think that's really important.
Yeah, let's come back.
And maybe that is a connection of a Keith or even yourself in so many ways. I mean, you've done this. I've called you a couple times crying, frustrated just about life, and you're like, and most of the times like, cooler heads will prevail. This is Harrison's line. If you ever want to know Harrison's advice, cooler heads will prevail. 4 words. Just don't even call him, okay? You're welcome.
Time is a universal solvent. I got a couple phrases. I got some phrases.
But nah, sincerely, man, sometimes where I thought maybe my wife and I would be going through a divorce, like some really tough times I called you in. And I think it's important that sometimes you'll probably meet somebody who actually doesn't know the access the access they have because of the faith and the hard work that they've done. And I think that's the opposite side.
How far along they actually are, how much closer they actually are.
Like you don't even know. You could qualify. So somebody told you had to rent for the rest of your life. Like you could create a portfolio. You guys talked to a couple podcasts ago. Hey, how much is $1 million really? Like you actually are closer to some of your goals, and you could keep manifesting and maybe even end up in a hole by not realizing actually how far your faith, how far your work has actually taken you. So I think there's another piece of it that I don't want to miss is that, some people have been beaten up and they actually do need to be accelerated. They need to be pushed. They need to be loved on, cared for. So anyways, that's a separate side.
Bro, it's funny. I think it just shows like where I am and the people I talk to quite often are the DC type A. I deserve this. I earned, or even different than I deserved it. I work really freaking hard and I should be in a place where I can get this.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's some
and you're not giving it to me.
You're not.
It's not the market.
It's not like you. I'm gonna go to somebody that can. Another story. But people that are on the both extremes of the faith or belief or whatever spectrum you want to say, where they believe in it more than the reasonable world will provide or their works provide. But then the other side, like folks that don't believe, that have been beat up, that have not had anyone speak just the possibility into them, right?
I mean, you talk about,
and when they can see it, that spark, and I assume you see this in people that are struggling with stuff personally, that have not had somebody at the right time, right moment, say the right thing, love them in the right way, be believed in the right way. Like that's I think there are consistencies there, man. 'Cause it's all about 100%. Human, just all this complex set of emotions.
Okay, so let me ask you a question there. So as a realtor, so what do you bring into the situation when that happens? Not necessarily, I mean, we talked about the people that are like, hey, you just need to realize that you can talk to 4 of the realtors and they'll give you the same answer. Or one of them will give you the answer you want. And maybe they can do something magical, but you'll probably just come back, right? But you also have the other side where like, man, you've worked really hard. Like, how do you pull that greatness out of them? Do you have a go-to kind of flow chart plan of like, how do I get you to believe that if you follow this NACA program, it's going to be crazy, but you can do it? Or you could have a home for your 3 kids. You could, hey, I know you're a single mom, but I'm telling you, this is an opportunity for you. And then you see them on the other side. Have you had that opportunity?
I have. Well, I think it's 2 main things. It's kind of clarity around what it actually looks like from beginning to end. Because a lot of people that come
taking your notes. This is good.
A lot of people that come to us with, that fear. Yeah, go ahead, man. I'll just Venmo me. We'll take it. Run a new collection.
No, we good.
Can we get a remote collection? This message was brought to you today by Coalition Properties, the DC.
If you buy this water, okay, I'm just letting you know all your problems are gonna go away. Sorry. Okay, so clarity.
Clarity.
That water.
Clarity. Step 1. Because
Okay.
most people that are in a place of either not believing, not knowing, or overly believing, or don't know what's in between, right? They expect, I'm here, I show up, magic, finished.
Yeah,
so I'm
reality.
like, here's what happens in between. And then the second part, maybe forget my second part.
I was like, good.
Oh gosh,
The tap with water.
it was good.
Then I
need
give
some
him a
more
glass of water. No, you give him the glass. That's part 2. Part 2. I just need you to sign on this. Nah, that's you though. Okay, so clarity. We can stop with clarity.
Clarity's
We can stop with clarity.
Damn, it's gonna come back.
Let's go. Give it this. This makes for a great podcast timing. While Harrison is thinking, let's just talk a little bit about 2008 Georgetown and what was going. I'm just giving you time.
Even better would have been early, like 2009, 10 Bethesda and.
Okay, so let me back up. So as you're thinking though, so clarity is so important. Again, I told you my realtor was able to provide that to me in a really important point. And I'm in a good enough spot that I don't feel bad about whatever the answer is.
Yeah.
Just tell me the answer. Like it didn't even matter to me. Like if it's good or bad. If it's
planes landed.
If you can earn 500,000. Come on. Okay, planes landed. I got you sometime.
You got me.
Yeah, just give me the answer. All right, go ahead.
Because people that are on a progression, have goals, have dreams, have desires, they need like. As a person, I have to be able to understand and know and connect with them on kind of where they are and give them the message. Like, I'm one that's a rip the Band-Aid off, be honest with you, be straight with you, but also get you to think about an adjustment of your target. I'm not saying change your dream. I'm just saying be honest, be real about what that dream looks like on a time horizon perspective and on a criteria perspective. Because there's nothing worse than somebody telling you, like I get people come to this list with all the things that they need, gotta have. And I'm like, difference between needs and wants is an important one.
Okay.
And like just being honest with you that this all can be done and can be done by you, but based on everything you've told me and everything you've got at your disposal, here's about when that happens. That might not be house one.
Yeah, look.
But if you sit to the side and say, oh, well, if I can't get all the things I want in this first one, there will be some folks say, oh yeah, world's your oyster. You can do it all. And I'm like, yeah, you actually can do it all. You just might not be able to do it all today.
Now. Yeah,
this
that's
one.
helpful.
And if you stick with me, stick with us,
that's kinda
follow
cool.
the process.
Yeah.
Ownership in general, for most people, ownership over time can be so empowering, can be so much more empowering. But the humility, the honesty, the willingness to not get all the things from a asset and lifestyle perspective now is the hardest part I think people deal with. And look, man, like folks, as you know, people bring the entire world into and their past experience into their interaction with you. So I always try to have some understanding of that and grace. But sometimes it gets frustrating. And there will be folks that concretely decide like, no, because you didn't tell me this in the right way, you're not the one for me. And that's okay, right? No. And I've learned over the years, I've learned to kind of get better and, read ain't the right word, but like be more perceptive, more empathetic to people and where they're at. So clarity, and then just the creating honesty with them on like a real plan, on time horizon and on criteria adjustment can be the most helpful, because some people won't tell you that. Some people are like, oh yeah, you $500,000 in DC, whatever you want, man, I got you. Let's go do it. And then people will be out shopping, and you had an experience, which would be good for you to talk about, of this. I got the means and ability, and I'm here and I'm showing up like I'm doing everything right, and I'm losing. Not everybody can take that, right? And I don't argue that it is worse to be out on from a real estate perspective, writing offers, falling in love with a house, writing the letter, which you're not supposed to do anymore.
Right.
All these things. So like for that one house, and it was never within that. Like nothing makes me sadder if I got a listing on the market and I get 26 offers, and somebody sent me one, and it's trash. I mean, it's bad. It had no shot.
Because that's
so
a
far
client
off.
on the other side that really thinks.
That really loved it. And their agent, and the saddest part is some of those offers, the agents connected to them are like both least in touch. They are least connected with the process too, but the person writing it wanted it so bad and believed in it, but they didn't get the right information and context. And I'd argue it's better for someone to not even write an offer like that.
Yeah, I hear you.
Than to go out there and get destroyed. Like and then be like, but this was the one we prayed circles around the house, and it was here and it was there.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's huge.
Yeah,
man.
and luckily around here we've got some evening of market cycles, like where more can happen than could a couple years ago. But the more I get that out of the way up front with them, or at least manage their because the analogy I use all the time is if I'm going into a fight, I'd rather have a second to kind of brace for impact than get cold cocked or blindsided out of nowhere. And I feel like those,
Yeah. So so I got like three. I'm gonna just gotta go down the line. Best advice you ever given me was, hey man, I think our budget for our first house was less than our budget for this last one that we just purchased. Again, appreciate all your support and help alongside Rebecca, the team with that, right? But best advice you ever gave me, you said, Kyle, don't look at a house outside of your budget because you're gonna like it. Like honestly,
period.
It was some of the best. Like, I was like, and then you start thinking like, okay, well, if I just move a little bit of this over here and I turn that, and I probably could get that liquid. Hey, can we get that liquid? Oh, we can't get a liquid. It's solid. Okay, it's just like. So I think it was just so helpful to be like, figure out what you and Anna can afford. I don't care what that piece of paper that they pre-approval gave you. It looks nice. Figure out what you and Anna can afford, what you feel like is gonna be comfortable. Maybe a little bit higher than that if you need to move. And don't look at anything else. Stop it. Because all you're going to do is like it. And then, it's so funny. A great pastor said, all it's going to do, it's going to be here when you get there, right? I can't wait till I get there. When you get there, it just looks like here. And it's like, oh, can I get there? Oh, and then there's here again. Oh, can I get there? Oh, it's here again. Oh, can I get there? Yeah. So as soon as you get to, okay, you want $200,000 house, you get there, $225. I could get one more bathroom. For $450. I could actually get a basement. $1 million. I
could get my
and you start, and if I sell 4 of my children, anyways, so you start 4 kids, that's a lot of kids. But you probably could. You sell 4 kids. Anyways,
that's cute.
But that was some of the best advice you ever gave me. I think to your point, I was actually praying. I was like, Holy Spirit, I don't know if I should say this, but I think some of the toughest advice that I've given to people when they've come up for prayer is like that Daniel 3:18. I believe that God can do this. I believe he wants to do it, even crazier. But man, if he doesn't, I just want to let you know I'm here. I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to pray with you. I'm going to believe God for the next house, for the next blessing, the next prayer, whatever that point is. And I think that's just so important to, like you said, put together clarity and a plan. Hey, this is where we are. I don't know how we got here. You lost your family because you're drinking too much. And I'm sorry. We can pray for that and believe God's gonna bring him back miraculously. But if he doesn't, what I'm telling you is I'm gonna walk with you. And I got a church full of people that want to walk with you. And I think that's the mustard seed part, right?
Yeah.
That's the flourishing of all that on the inside to bring it back around a little bit. So anyways.
Community. I want to do a couple kind of wrap up thoughts and conversation points. What we love about church, and we've talked about on this podcast a lot, is community. Is the group of people we get to both do things with, experience things. And I think church is a unique community in that it gives you a space to talk about something you normally only talk about in depth in that space. And because it is faith and it is personal and it is like kind of ingrained in you and you've grown up with it and there's always emotions connected to it, it opens up kind of other conversations.
Okay.
So the community intersectionality, where else do people get the kind of community, or where else have you seen the kind of community that you have at a good church and in a good community in the world?
That's really interesting.
That's the question, and then the statement is, I see it, think about it sometimes, in both good experiences, good businesses, good other mastermind groups, or other places where people go and like find common interest community. Like that's where I've kind of seen it. But I'm just curious, as a pastor who runs a dope community now,
I appreciate
what communities maybe do you compete with? Where else are folks, you know what I'm saying? Or do you try to emulate or like people emulate you? Like where's other communities like what you got?
That's interesting. Well, Runs is strong. First of all, let me say shout out to Pastor Jim and Jennifer Wilkes. They're our lead pastor journey. I don't want to get it twisted. Like I'm here. I told my church I came on. I don't want to act like I'm on third base and hit a triple. Like they've been here 15 years planning. I've been able to run our campus. I'm very excited about that and connect with people, obviously yourself and others in faith, and so important. I think the tough thing about finding another community like that is the exponential value of the people that are there that all are able to openly say, I don't have it together. Can I be honest? Even going to like a masterminds, the weird thing is I'm sure at some level, and I love y'all, I'm sure at some level, everybody's trying to act like they got it together. Like I want to, like, it's a great pastor, his name's Chris, Pastor Chris, but he actually says that the step from your healing to where you are is one step is taking off your mask. And I'll be honest, a lot of the places you rock with, a lot of places, a lot of professional environments, let me just say it that way, there's a lot of masquerade going on. If I'm completely honest, there's a lot going on in church. The only thing is at some point, hopefully maybe not week 1, week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you come to that altar, you pray with me, you have a real conversation about where you really are and what's really going on. How are you doing is a great question, but a better question, once they answer that with blessed and highly favored, is how are you doing really? And I think so. I don't know if I know of another community. The only one that actually first came to my mind is just in my life is just sports, because you do even in like community sports. You know, hanging out at an older age. If you're in consistent community with these guys over time, at some point you're like, yo, this is crazy. But the thing is it's still there. Nobody really checks you on your foolishness. You know, like as long as you can score 50, we'll figure it out. Or, you know, maybe you ain't passed the ball enough. But the truth is nobody checks you fully on your foolishness, even there. Especially there's a tier. Not the best. I mean, certain players get away with different stuff, you know.
Rules are different. Is that arguably any community though?
So what
really, is that arguably any community though, that the rules of engagement, what you're allowed to do there, are directly connected to kind of your output importance, and you correct me.
That's helpful.
Church ain't that way.
No, you're okay. So maybe I think there's an expectation though that I should have that. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, leader.
I don't think there's any expectation that Shaquille O'Neal should have that. I think there's some level of like Shaquille, Charles Barkley. Nobody should be checking you or something. Maybe your accountant, but like nobody should be checking you because you're Shaq.
Yeah,
I think there's a level, especially as a pastor and a leader. Maybe yourself. They're like, somebody should be checking Kyle on his foolishness. And maybe it's not me, you know, the person sitting in the congregation.
But when you are, I think, an effective leader and a good leader has the introspectiveness to kind of check. And I know I have a little insight to how your brain works in terms of checking yourself and being considerate and thinking about what you got to do. We do it a lot, probably more than extra of checking. But that's I think it's congruent with good leadership, though. The folks that do it, but then need some help kind of pulling out.
Look, you need somebody that's able to call you. I got a guy 2 weeks ago. I got a guy that I won't say what he's going through out of respect for him, but he's going through something really intense. And I picked up a call on a phone, and I called a friend, a really close friend I have named Dante, man, amazing guy. He's just been in my life the last couple of years through the pandemic. We started playing Mafia on Zoom, and like we just ended up becoming friends. Anyways, Mafia is a great game, by the way, so don't cancel me. But I called him a couple weeks ago, man. I was like, hey, man, we tap in about a lot of stuff, whether it's finances, friends, family, sex, all. I was like, yo, on a mental level, like, are we straight? Because it's always like, you know, oh man, I had no clue. And I'm like, I don't want to be that dude in your life. I don't want you to be like, are we good, right? Like, I just want to make sure we're good. And he's like,
wait, because your fear of like, you don't want to be the like extra burden that makes the convo deeper, or like the fact that y'all just always only talk about.
I'm saying like if he made an attempt on his life, that's what I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
Like if you made I feel like it happened, and it's happened even in church circles, man, where pastors, under all the pressure that they have, like, you're feeding and don't take a moment to get fed. We were joking with Ryan about going to therapy, but like, I mean, if you don't take that moment. So anyways, I was like, I don't want to be that dude that just didn't know.
Right. If we this close,
yo,
and I never like asked a question or extended my hand.
I just want to make sure that we know we can talk about everything.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Nah, I'm good. You good? Oh yeah, we good. God's fault. That's how guys talk." So, but
you ain't got to stay in it that deep. But I'm like, hey, if you need to
just so
to be here, this isn't always an option.
Just so you know, man. I mean, you've been that rock for me a couple times as well, man. Like again, when I thought things were rough with Anna, when I thought I did something dumb, and I've never done anything too crazy, but my brain will let me tell me that. Like I've had to call him and be like, "Yo, I'm tripping, right?" You're like, "Yeah, you tripping."
Yeah,
you're like, okay, cool. Yeah, so Harrison said it was cool, so it must be true. Anyway, so
I love it, man. Right. So it's such interesting perspective that the community that is in church is unique and special, and I know that, I knew that, but I always feel like people try to recreate. Something important I heard you say there was the proximity of people that are, be it praising, what's it, corporately, when you say we're doing it together? Corporately, playing ball corporately, there's overlapping of like shared and intense experience. And a shout out again to Father Raymond Kemp. I think what was so special about Church of the Poor and Struggling Transcendence was a space where we got, and even though it was only a semester, where we got like asked really hard questions. And because we were sharing a space, and I'd argue proximity was probably the biggest part of it there, and just where we were in life and maturity.
It's consistency. It's important.
But then the permission to like get past and play Future mask off, back to play the Future mask off, to take the mask off. And when you take the mask off, you look around, you're like, yo, we have a lot more in common. All these things I thought separated us, we got in common. Things you struggling with, I'm struggling with.
Love.
Right? Like that.
Race, socioeconomics, faith, like all these things that should naturally divide us. You start taking, it's like, oh man, your parents went through a divorce too. That's crazy. Like, oh man, you lost your father as well, man, at a young age. Man, what was that like to grow up, with your mom? Like it's like, oh wow, we actually have more similar than alike. And the thing as a pastor that I love is when you get to that granular level, the houses, even the diagnosis, you just like all that stuff can be set to the side because there's something inside of us that we have to offer to one another. I love what I do, man, and with you as well, right? Building a community here, and I love what I do for that reason because that granular level is so good, and we miss it.
And you don't. And I think the pandemic separated folks. I mean, well, it's weird. I feel like virtual connections, like you're talking about some of these Zoom calls and stuff, gave us a way to be in touch with people more, but how deep did we have permission to go? I feel like it's extremes, right? Either we go like really deep with folks because barriers are down, or I just stay at this kind of surface level. Now that we back outside again completely, you're kind of like, man, I'm getting used to this like in between. Like, are we actually cool? We could have, man, that may be next time.
I know we got to do a part.
Because there's like the parenthood friend circle group that you grow now where you're like, all right, I like you and we cool, but like, are we gonna be like cool? Like, can you actually know me? And can I make a weird joke around you?
If I have you over my house and you start seeing my paintings, like, what are you gonna think?
You see my books or my art that I have or something, like what's you go like scroll real deep on my social media, like, are you really like, because that's all me, like, and I am, I feel like we're at a place in life where we can have confidence, and we've got permission from both being in leadership and talking to and having one-to-many relationships. Like you do a great job with your one-to-many relationships. I feel like people that are good at those have another level.
Explain that, one-to-many.
So because you're a pastor or you are a leader in your community,
one
person who has to maintain connection and communication with a lot of people, which I have to do in leadership capacity as well. I'm just saying that's giving us, I think, a different level of confidence and ability to be like, I am who I am, and here you're gonna get all these parts of it. And granted, I can self-censor.
Yeah. But you're also smart enough not to invite everybody into that circle.
Correct.
Not everybody can hold that.
That.
And be like, yo, you lost to Ryan Butler in spades 20 years ago, and he can't let it go.
And
I can say that.
And he's got a picture of it.
And I can pray for him. I have no problem praying for Ryan for the rest of my life. I'm praying for him. So.
As we talked about in the party episode, don't ever play Ryan in anything. He won't forget, and he'll try to beat you.
That's a whole separate thing. We could go on games. Look, man.
Oh, man. But as we wrap up, man.
Okay.
Are there any final thoughts, man? Like, I think faith touches a lot more than people will admit, even if they are in a different place in their personal faith journey. I don't know, man. Just speak a word of understanding, encouragement, however you want to talk to folks about faith and all the places it shows up, and what a cool pastor would want to say about it.
Yeah. Man, so many different things that my mind naturally goes to, and I should have probably put this more. You know what I love to do? If you're okay with it, I love to pray.
Yeah.
That'd be so dope at the end of this. But I think what I would say before, man, as somebody who's listening, here's what a great podcast I listen to is called Leading Second, which is a whole separate thing of just leadership and how do you do this well. Some of the stuff we talked about, accountability, checks and balances, comes into that. Submission, right? I really want this thing, but God's placed me in this seat at this space. So what do I do to steward well where I am and not be so caught up with what everybody else has? But a really great podcast at the end of it, they say, hey, man, if you've been listening this long, it's probably because you needed this. So I'll say to somebody, man, if you're watching YouTube, man, you've been listening this long, it's probably not because me and Harrison are that great or funny or, attractive, obviously this side of the table. But it might be because you needed this. And I think if somebody is kicking their tires on faith, trying to figure out what does it mean to bridge this divide between the faith I have in God or higher power, whatever it is I believe in, and the faith that I have for my marriage, for a diagnosis to be turned around, for my finances, for my friendships, also for real estate. If they're trying to bridge that gap, I think the first thing I would say is maybe the last thing that you kind of led into is give a community a chance. And I think, this is not obviously a pitch for you guys. You guys are doing great. But I think give a community a chance. And when I say give a community a chance, I say give a community a chance and be consistent. Right? I think sometimes we'll tap in, I don't like this church. The lights are too bright. I went to 2 churches in the last 6 years, okay? And both of them were loud. Give a community a chance, right? Give the opportunity to come and then to come back and say, you know what, maybe they had an off day, or maybe I didn't like that small group, or maybe that person looked at me weird. A lot of times people are mad at church, but really you're just mad at people. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And that's a biblical thing because God does say we are the church, right? The Holy Spirit is inside of us, at least in a Christian background. But I think give a community a chance. That's probably the number one thing I would say. If it is a basketball community, fine. Just keep showing up. Yeah. Keep showing up to practice when you don't feel like it. Keep showing up to the games when you don't feel like it. For many of us, I always go to this, man, but I think it's so important, especially the dads and family men that we are. But man, I see marriages, man. Like, give it a chance. Come back. Be consistent. Be consistent on the days that suck. Be consistent on the days that are good. Love your wife. Love your spouse in a moment where everything is going great and when everything stinks. Like, be consistent. And what I find is that our Pastor Jim, I'll shout him out one more time, but he says, actually, consistency over time is what creates amazing lift. Yeah, dude. It's not. Oh,
that
man,
translates
I hit the lotto.
to so many things in life. But
It's not I hit the lotto. It's not I got this great house on Capitol Hill. We have seen people with great houses get all of it taken away. Yeah. Be consistent with that community, man. So, anyways, can I pray? Please. That'd be dope, man. Lord God, I just thank you so much for the opportunity, man, to be here in this All Blends Perfectly podcast. God, I thank you, Keith, Ryan, Harrison, what they're building here. I believe it's something special. And I pray for somebody, man, that's listening today. God, maybe they're frustrated, like Ryan is, about that space game that he obviously lost and is holding on to. But God, maybe it is a sale that just fell through. Maybe it's a client that just walked away. Maybe it's a realtor that they really, really, really thought they were clicking with, and for some reason it didn't work out. God, I pray that you would just give them the grace to have them try you out again, Lord God. Try the Holy Spirit, try church, try a community out again. And I know that through that, God, consistency is what will create great lift in our life, God. I believe that you're going to do amazing things, but even if you don't, still trust you. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Beautiful, man. Appreciate you, big dog.
Love it. Love it, man.
Love that, man.
My final thought before we say goodbye and tell you where to find us all is that faith is different for everybody. Again, we're exploring kind of both our personal faith journeys, but something I've learned just in life and through great people like Father Kemp and you is that, whatever perspective you got on it, whatever you brought to it before, whatever you think about the media and politics and all the different layers of humanity that corrupt what religion and faith should be at the core, community is always a good thing. And pretty much it is never a bad idea to make your world bigger. And if a faith community is one that you're curious about or exploring, hope this is the message you needed to hear to go back and check it out, because community is always a good thing. And that coalition, that's what we're about, is community. So I'm just grateful for you leading into this convo. Hopefully, like you said, somebody heard something. If they were here this whole time, it was a message you needed to hear. The way you can find us on all the social media platforms is that the All Blends Perfectly podcast, at All Blends Perfectly on Instagram.
Great
All
content.
Blends Perfectly on YouTube. I am at HL Beach. Keith is at Keith James Realtor. Ryan is at Ryan Butler Hoya. And Kyle, where can the folks find you if they want to stay in touch with you?
Kyle Keenan Williams, man, would love to chat with you. And I say, send me your questions, right? Because you may be here of another faith and be like, what does this mean? Hey, Chris, I want to be, hey, whatever faith it is that you profess to, I just want to let you know I love you right there. But yeah, send me your questions, send me concerns, send me hate mail. I'm good with that too. I just forwarded it to Harrison, so it's great. But yeah, man, I appreciate it.
Not a bad review.
Right. 5 stars on Google.
Good stuff. Thank you all for joining in to the All Blends Perfectly podcast, and we'll see you next time.